Hey guys, welcome to Home Sweet Homeschool. My name is Ashley and I'm a homeschooling mom to one. And today I'm participating in a collab with some other homeschool mamas about the 5 reasons we chose to homeschool. You'll find links to their videos or the playlist, if I could figure that out, in the description below so that you can go and listen to their reasons. So before I get started with the 5 reasons why we wanted to homeschool, I want to tell you a little bit about my background. When I was little, I did go to a private preschool, but then from kindergarten to 12th grade, I was in public school in our town. And it was perfectly fine for me. I did fine in public school. After that, I went to college and I decided to become a teacher, and I taught public school for 13 years. I spent, I think, 4 years in pre-K, 1 year in first grade, and the rest of my time was spent in kindergarten. I love my job. I love the people that I worked with, and public school was perfectly fine for me. But then it all changed when my son was brought into the equation and he was having to attend public school. So we'll talk about all these reasons and how we ended up where we are now. This is our 2nd year homeschooling, and we'll talk about how we ended up pulling him from public school and homeschooling him. So let's get started. I am starting at 5 and I'm counting down to 1. And I know there are a ton of reasons out there to homeschool, but these are my top 5 reasons of why we chose to homeschool. So number 5 for me was, when you're at home, there's no competition. There's no academic competition to worry about. I know when I taught public school, the first 2 weeks and almost the first month, it was test after test after test. And I was just in kindergarten. I was testing these kindergartners on everything. And these tests are constant throughout the year. It's like just when you start getting a good rhythm teaching, it's time to test them again for something else, either sight words or math facts or what reading level are they. And it's just this constant testing. And so the school, they're doing the best they can, and they would create incentives, and I was even guilty of it in my own classroom. If you reached a certain number of sight words by Christmas, then you came to the pizza party. And we had different incentives and different levels. And for some students, that is super motivating. Some students would eat that competition up, and they're going to see how many words they can learn, or how many math facts they can learn, or how many books they can read, because we had all kinds of competitions going on in public school. And even in my own classroom and with my own son, I saw the kids that were motivated by that, and then I saw the kids who that just crushed their spirit. Number 1, some kids do the best that they can. And I would have some children who came to me not knowing any sight words, and by Christmas they may have only learned 10. And for them, that is wonderful. I mean, they've worked hard, they've put in a lot of effort, and they've worked so hard, but they didn't get to get that incentive because we set a huge goal of 25. And for some kids, that's just not attainable. So for my son, all this competition and all of these incentives, they only caused him to be really anxious. He kind of just gave up. He didn't care if he was one of the top people. He felt like no matter what he did, it wasn't enough. He couldn't learn enough math facts in a certain amount of time. He couldn't learn enough sight words, by Christmas. He was trying. We worked on them every single night, and he was making progress. But I think one of the things that we do not reward enough at public school was the effort and the work that's put into it and the progress that you make. And so at home, I'm able to encourage him. I encourage him daily to just do the best that he can. Give me his best every day. And I tell him it doesn't matter how fast he's moving or how far he gets. It's just that he's moving forward. If he learned one more thing than he learned yesterday, then he's doing exactly what he needs to be doing. So there's no competition between anybody else. He is just trying to be better than he was yesterday. He's just working on himself. And that is just a huge reason why I love having him at home. My 4th reason for why we chose homeschool is that public school just wasn't a good fit for him. So some kids do perfectly fine in public school. I was one of those kids. I went to school, I did my work, I made good grades, I behaved. I just kind of fit into that mold, and there are tons of kids that can do that. But then there's also those kids that it's just not the right fit for them, and we have to accept that. And it was hard for me to accept that for my son because I taught at this public school and I wanted him to be there with me. But where I worked and the school that my son attended, the kids are sitting all day long. And this was when he was going into first grade. He was in my kindergarten class, and we don't spend a lot of time sitting down. But when he went to first grade and from then on, the kids spent an awful lot of time just sitting and doing work. Also, he was not allowed to talk at lunch. We had a system where that if the music's playing, you couldn't talk. But you could when the music went off, and it really bothered me because there's not a time that I go eat with adults or with my family that we sit and we're quiet when we're eating, because to me, that's the best time to talk. Because you're all together and you want to catch up on your day, and like, I don't understand why people can't talk in the lunchroom. You also couldn't talk in the halls. You had to walk in the third square with your hands behind your back. You know, it's very, and I know we do it. I know we do it for order purposes, like keeping things in order, or else there would be chaos. But it's just so far from real life. He also would have times that he would have little to no recess. Either they just didn't make it out in time because they had so much they had to cover, which is not the fault of the teacher. That comes from, you know, all the mandates and things that you have to do. Or he would have no recess because he wasn't able to get his work finished, which became a recurring role for my son. We ended up finding out that he had ADHD, and no matter what you did, if you kept him from recess or moved him out into the hallway, he couldn't get that work finished. He needed other techniques. Taking away his recess was not the best thing for him because it still didn't get the work done, and he missed his recess. We also have no choice when it comes to curriculum. And in kindergarten, that wasn't so much of a problem because, you know, our curriculum's a little different than first and second grade. But when he got in first grade, our school district adopted, we started doing Common Core was our first thing. And then we started doing the Engage New York Eureka Math. And it was something he wasn't familiar with. And for someone like my son who, he can do math, he understands math, he can get the answer. He did not understand the Common Core math and why you must take so many unnecessary steps to get that same answer that he got by solving a problem, you know, really simply. So I had no control over that. There was nothing I could do. He was enrolled at that school. He had to go through and he had to do that curriculum. So I had no control over that. And it just didn't work for him. And there was also no time for things that he was passionate about. And not just him, but any of the kids. We had things that we had to teach. His teachers had certain things that they had to teach, you know, in each semester. And there's no time for kids to say, hey, I really want to learn about airplanes, or I really want to know why this happens, you know. And there's just not any time. There's not time for those science experiments. There's not time to just really dive into a topic. Everything's just really quick, and then you move on to the next thing. And so I knew that that just wasn't the place for him. My son is super creative, and he is interested in lots of things. And what I saw happen to him was, you know, he went in this excited, happy, you know, little 5-year-old. That's when he entered public school. And by the time I took him out in second grade, he was full of anxiety, and he really doubted what he could do. And it was just so sad. He gained weight. Because he was anxious and worried, most of the time he started peeling the skin around his fingers. They would be just red by his fingernails. And it was just so sad. When I think about it now, I'm just so sad that I didn't do something sooner. We tried so many things. You know, his teachers were very helpful, and we talked to them about things we could do. And we even, for third grade, moved him to a private Christian school, and it was a little bit better, but it still wasn't the right fit for him. School just wasn't going to be the right fit for him. And he left feeling like a failure. And even to this day, we are still trying to build him up and make him feel like he can do things. And luckily, with the help of his Math Lessons for a Living Education and master books, he now feels successful at math. And that took us over a year to kind of get him to that realization that he can do it, that he is able to do math. And it just came from public school, just wasn't right for him. All right. Our third reason, and this kind of stems from coming from public school, our third reason we homeschool is we have flexibility with our curriculum. Like I mentioned, he did struggle with that Common Core math. And he was also very weak in writing. We just really didn't have a good writing program at our school at that time. And he struggled to get his thoughts down on paper. He's super creative, but taking what's in his mind and putting it on paper, there's just a disconnect. And at school, once you're in first or second grade, you've got to start writing. There's no more of that jotting it down for them. They have to put it on paper, and he struggled with that. And we just didn't have a choice. And so what I love about homeschool is that, I can help him. I can make it very individualized. I know exactly what he needs for math. He likes things that are short and sweet and not a lot of busy work. And he is the same way with writing. We really had to figure out what worked best with him for writing, and he needed just the basics. And so I was able to do a lot of research on YouTube and online, and I'm looking at a lot of different curriculums, and I found what I think will work best for him. We do a little mixture of language lessons for a living education, and then we love Brave Writer, because Brave Writer, you can jot down their stories, and he can start doing some partnership writing where he writes a little bit, I write a little bit. And so he's really benefited from having an individualized curriculum, and that is why homeschool is so great. I also love the flexibility of homeschool because our curriculum is very interest-led. If he's really into airplanes, then I can find something that we can use for science that has to do with airplanes. You can really take their topics and run with them and make it work for you. And then my most favorite thing about being flexible with our curriculum is if it isn't working, we can change it. If we are getting frustration and tears and there's no learning happening, we can change it. And that happened with us our first year of homeschool. I picked a curriculum for language arts that I thought was wonderful, and I still do. There's nothing wrong with that curriculum. It just didn't work for my son. And the beauty of it is that we were able to stop it because we were having every day, he did not want to do it. He dreaded doing it. And so I was able to say, hey, let's try something else. And so in April of last year, I thought, hey, this can be like a trial run for next year. We started Brave Writer, and then I also started looking into language lessons for a living education because he loved math lessons. And so I was able to change it and make it work for him. And so far this year, we're into our second week of school, and things are a lot better. We don't have those frustration and tears. So just being flexible with your curriculum is such a wonderful reason to homeschool. All right, number 2, flexibility in our daily life. This, yes, I love this. When my husband and I both worked, if he was sick, one of us had to take off, and both of our jobs were important. Neither one of us wanted to miss work. We needed to be there, but we also needed to be with our sick child. So, now we don't have to worry about sick days. If we don't feel good, then we get to take the day off, and we don't have to worry about it because I'm here with him. I can run him to the doctor or just stay with him until he feels better. We can also do our schoolwork whenever we feel like it. We do not have to stay on that strict schedule. We do not have to get up early if we don't want to. Some people are early birds and they get their work done, and that's wonderful. That's not the case for my son. He likes to sleep in. And so we do our work whenever we feel like it. The only thing I ask is that he's finished before my husband gets home. So he really has until about 5 something to get his work done. But on most days, all of our work is done by 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The other thing I love about homeschool is that we can sleep until our bodies are rested. He doesn't have to wake up at 6 in the morning like he had to when I had to get us both ready to go to public school. He can sleep in, and he wakes up a much happier child when he's had the sleep that he needs. And he's able to go through his day and do his work without any trouble. He's not tired. I also love it because we can ease into our days. We don't have to get up and rush. I know when we were both at public school, our mornings were full of getting ready, hurry and eat your breakfast, hurry up and get dressed, we've got to go. And no matter what time I got up or got us started, we were always running behind, it seemed like. And we haven't had to do that with homeschool. We get up, we eat our breakfast. If he wants to play or watch YouTube videos or whatever he wants to do, we just ease into our mornings, and it is just the greatest thing. We also get to take field trips whenever we want to, and really anything can be turned into a field trip, and we love that. And another perk of the flexibility is that we can vacation in off seasons or in seasons where just other kids are in school. We went to Disney World in May this year, and it was so less crowded than it normally is. And it was just so nice. And this is also a great time to go to those museums and go to parks, and you're not having to fight those big crowds because everyone else is in school. So it's really just opened up our day, and we're not under the time constraints of anyone. We get to decide how our day goes. And I love it. So our number one reason, and this is what weighed on my heart forever. Like I said, I love the school I worked at. I love the people that I worked with, and it wasn't them. But since my son came to school and we were, fighting the tears and the frustrations and the homework and all that kind of stuff, it was just weighing on my heart that it was hurting our family. It was having a negative impact on our family. And so the number one reason that we homeschool is for family time. I was so tired of school getting the best of my son and I. And my family got what was left over at the end of the day. I gave it my all. I worked so hard for my job. I loved my job, and I wanted to do a good job. And I put in so much effort during the day of taking care of other people's children and making sure that they're learning and that their needs were met. And my son gave it his all while he was at school. He did the best he could do while he was there. And by the time we got home, we gave the leftovers of ourselves to each other. So we were angry, and I wasn't so much angry. My son was just angry, and we were both tired, and we just didn't want to do anything. We didn't want to go outside. We had been busy all day long. And, by the time we got home and my husband got home, our evenings were so packed full. We had to do homework, and it usually, if it was math, ended in tears, and sometimes not just for my son, but for me too. And then we had to make sure we had dinner, and I absolutely hated cooking because it was like something else I had to do, and now I enjoy it. I can plan my suppers ahead of time, and I love that I can provide a meal and it's ready to eat, in the afternoons, and there's no guessing. It's just done. But when I worked, I didn't want to cook dinner. And then after dinner, we had to hurry and do baths, and we had to hurry up and get in bed so that we could get up and do it all over again tomorrow. And it was just this pattern of, this is hurting our family. Our family could be so much better. Like, our relationships could be so much better. Things could be so much better. I know there has to be another way. We had little to no time for family time unless it was on the weekends. And then, like, on Sundays, I was preparing to go back to work. So really, it was just like one day a week. We had Saturdays. And we knew something had to change. And I just, I talked to my mom about homeschooling. I talked to my husband. And we're like, my husband was very supportive. And he's like, if you think this is going to work for him, you think this is going to be the best for him, let's try it. And my husband worked so hard to make sure that we could bring me home and not have my income. He worked so hard, and we couldn't have done it without him because he got all that figured out, and he told, if you'll just handle the curriculum and you'll handle the homeschool part, I'll take care of the money part of it, and I'll get you to where you could stay at home. And so if it wasn't for him, none of this would have been possible. But he knew just as well as I knew that we needed this for our family. We needed it for our son. And now I get to spend so much time with my son during the day. I've learned so many things about him. I'm here to help him. I'm here to encourage him, just to spend time with him. And what I love about it is my son and I can make sure that all the schoolwork's done, all the chores are done. So when my husband comes home, he's not bombarded with homework and extra things to do around the house. He can just come home and rest from his day at work. He can come home and just mentally rest. He's got supper that he can eat, and then we spend time together. We'll go outside, or we'll go for a walk, or we'll watch a movie, or they'll play together, and our evenings are so much better, and our family life has changed so much because of this. So we're just so relaxed now. We do have our moments. We're not like the perfect family, but it's so much more relaxed. We're so much closer to each other than we ever were. My son has lost weight. My son looks happy. He no longer peels the skin around his fingernails because he knows that home is where he is safe and he's comfortable. And, we're going to encourage him and build him up and just prepare him and for life. And he doesn't have to have any worries or anxieties about that. And my only regret is that we didn't do this sooner. And it just didn't work out for us to do it sooner. And I know it worked out in its right time. But if there was anything I regretted, is that I didn't, start him with homeschooling, because it really has been a blessing to us. So I hope you enjoyed this video today. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Also, don't forget to check out the other ladies that participated in this collab. Please share this video with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.